there are always unexpected little challenges that crop up as we go along. Some of them are easy to sort out and some of them aren't, but I'm going to show you a few clips from films that I've made where we've had to rethink things because it hasn't worked out quite as I expected. The first problem I've had to face is the weather. When I was on a short break in Brighton, I thought it would be nice to film along the promenade and on the pier, but what I hadn't expected was that it was blowing a gale, and the visuals looked nice because flags blew and everything looked attractive, but the sound was hopeless. And in the end I had to overlay it with music because you couldn't hear anything except for the noise from the camera. The second clip I'm going to show you is from Gateway to the World, which was a film I made in Felixstowe. We were there just for the day and it was necessary to do all the filming there and then. However, what you can't see from the visuals is that behind me was the most enormous black cloud which was heading my way, and I knew that I'd got maybe 8 to 10 minutes at most to film before the heavens were going to open. Sure enough, I got all the footage I needed and was just running back to the car when I got very wet. Felixstowe Port has a continuous quay of over 1.4 miles and is equipped with 29 ship-to-shore gantry cranes. They look like giant robots as they effortlessly lift and move the huge containers on and off the ships, controlled by technicians in the gantry. It's rare to see people walking on the site. The terminal has its own railway, which connects it to the Felixstowe branch line. Large movable cranes lift the containers on and off the trains and onto lorries. It looks easy, but the containers weigh many tons and have to be positioned precisely on the vehicles. I have 3 different cameras, a big and quite heavy bulky movie camera, my phone and a GoPro type camera called an 8-man, and sometimes I use a mix of all 3 when I want footage for films. This brings me to the next little problem I've had, which is all about camera movement. I've got fairly steady hands, so when I'm using the heavy camera, I can either put it on the tripod or rest it on something and get quite smooth pans. However, it doesn't always work so well when I want to use the phone or the 8-man camera. The next set of clips will show that problem. When I was in Czechoslovakia skiing with a friend Yanis, we put the camera on the helmet of his on his head to film him skiing down a run. And what I hadn't realised was that, of course, as he turns his head to look at what he's doing and moving around, it gives quite a shaky and jerky movement. However, it seemed worth including, and it was fine in the end. The second one was using the ape-man underwater. This was something we did when I was snorkeling, and again, it's quite hard to hold the camera still when you're trying to swim as well. But there were a lot of clips that ended up in the bin, but I did end up with something worth looking at. The next pair of clips show exactly the opposite problem, where there was a lack of movement and I had to put it in. The first one was filmed at Beth Chatto Garden, where I was filming trees, shrubs, flowers, ponds, but there wasn't actually very much movement there. So I had to move the camera to give that sense of flow. The second one was a movie to music called Using the Music of Country Gardens by Percy Granger. There I was actually putting together a compilation of stills, and to begin with it didn't look very interesting, but I was able to go into the editing to pan across the pictures to actually make the finished thing look a bit more attractive. Having people in your film really enhances the interest of it, but I'm always a bit wary of filming strangers unless they've actually agreed to be part of the film. When I was in Morocco making a film that ended up being called From Port to Plate, I was very lucky because we went along to the fish merchants, and one of them was really eloquent describing the fish that he had on his market stall. So when he'd finished explaining this to one person, I asked him if he'd mind me recording him to include in my film, and he was very happy to do it. And the piece he did to camera was really interesting, and is my favourite part of the film.
We have shrimp, we have king prawns, we have squid calamari, and we got red snapper, we have red mullet, and we have lemon salt, it's lemon salt of blackfish, and now we have lobster. We have so many lobster here in this coast, and we have also the sea bass. That one is sea bass. And the fish, we know them from the eyes and from the gills if it's red, and the eyes clear so it's fresh. So we make it fillet open, then it's grilled in the barbecue. And what else? So here we have John Dory. This is the John Dory, the blackfish, and here we have monkfish. That is good fish, it's nice. And here we have sardines. This is the small sardines, and this is the spider crab. The big crab is alive. So we eat the claws and in the side that is grilled in barbecue.
Human interest really does make a difference to films. So what do you do when that's not possible? When I was in Norway going down the field, I wanted the majesty and sheer sense of size and scale of the field and the cliffs going up the side to show, but there really weren't many people. There were lots of tourists next to me standing filming, but I didn't particularly want them. So what I tried to do was capture boats going by and then a small sequence at the end of some canoeists going out into the water, and that really had to do. But I think that the film would have been better if I'd have been able to add some more human interest. Anyway, see what you think. Sometimes when you're filming, you really can't get very close to what you wanted to shoot. And even with close-up on the camera, it's still a long way away. I had this problem when I was shooting the volcano of Stromboli. The boat really was quite a distance away for safety's sake, and what I was filming, the flames coming out of the top were very small. So what I ended up with was quite a short film, which just showed a tiny bit of the feel of the majesty of a volcano that was still erupting. timing can be quite a challenge too. When I went up to film the Lord Mayor's show, I was able to get lots of very nice footage of many floats. But the one thing that I particularly was supposed to be filming, which was the Hodges float, passed me by while I was attending to the camera, and actually I missed shooting it at all. So sometimes it's a bit tricky to get the timing right. Another issue I had was I had my friend's grandchildren bouncing on their giant trampoline while we were on holiday, and we wanted to put it to a particular piece of music. So they had to bounce in sequence with the music. And however hard I tried to make my phone loud enough so they could hear the timing for the bounces, we really couldn't do it. So in the end, I had to stand there and count and then try and fit that to the music when I was back home. It didn't quite work. I shan't try that one again. Another challenge you have when you're filming is when you want to make a film about something that somebody else in the club hasn't filmed, but you want to do it in a slightly different way. I had this with Lumiere London, where there was already a film about it, and I wanted to film different bits and to try and make something that felt a little different as a journey through the various light shows that were taking place. And I put this to music to help us along the way. The next challenge I'm going to talk about is what I'm doing now, which is talking to camera. I made a film called The Choice, which was a science fiction story, but it required cutting from one shot to another and me appearing to move my head slightly so that there was a flow and continuity to it. I didn't quite get it right. Newsreaders do it really well. I'm impressed with the way that happens, but I need to practice that before I do another film to camera.
So, the next evening I went round to his flat. Usual piles of old circuit boards, wires and bits piled up everywhere. But in the middle on the table was this small machine. It looked a bit battered and it had dials and knobs and switches on it. Sam said he wanted to show me what it did. I'd never seen anything like it before. Okay, I said, tell me, what does it do? What is it? Sam laughed and said I wouldn't believe him when he told me. Try me, I said. So he turned it round and I looked at the first dial. It had numbers all the way round the outside from 1 to 100. No idea, I said. What is it? "It's a time machine," said Sam. "Really?" I said. I started to laugh, but he was really serious. I had another look at the machine. "This is what I'm going to do," said Sam. "I'm going to set it to take me 100 years into the future and leave me there for 7 days. I'm going to take my phone and I'm going to take a notepad and I'm going to write down what I see and what I do. And I'm going to bring it back and show you." "OK, Sam," I said. "See you soon." He picked up his stuff and pressed the button on the machine. He sort of flickered and then slumped back in his chair. As he put his face up, I could see he'd got a week's worth of stubble. And he looked really dishevelled.
Sometimes when you're filming, you really only have one chance to get the shot. When I was filming on the vampire ride at Chessington World of Adventures, I needed to be in the very front seat of the carriage to do the filming that I wanted to do, and I didn't have an opportunity to practice with the 8-man camera actually holding it steady as I was being thrown from side to side on the ride going along. This presented some difficulties when I look back at the footage, in that my finger and thumb were slightly in shot sometimes, so I had to do some post-editing to try and get rid of that as best I could. I don't think it matters, because I think the thrill of the ride comes through, even though the shot itself wasn't as good as it should have been. I'm going to finish with 3 clips of films which I'll call the unexpected. The first one was a little fun animation film I made in Oakmere Park using a bear that I'd been given when we bought the new car, VW Bear he was called, and I took him up to the park and filmed him in different locations. It was going fine until I put him down and a little dog came along and had a sniff around him. I thought the dog was going to grab him by the ear and run off with him. Fortunately it didn't, but it added a bit of amusement to the film. The second one was a lack of dolphins when I went on a dolphin search last year in Gran Canaria. It seemed like a really good option to make a film watching the dolphins swimming through the water. However, there weren't that many of them and they were quite a distance away, so it really was a search for dolphins. I think it made quite a nice film, but probably it needed a different title. The final film was a piece of really good luck. I was down on the South Bank after the Lord Mayor's show to film the firework display there, and it was sort of guesswork as to where to stand to get the best shot. In the end, I was really lucky because I was in just the right place. The firework barge pulled up exactly in front of me, and what then happened was one long shot of the fireworks put to music. I was really pleased with it. I hope you are too. Although they were only fleeting views, it was amazing to see the dolphins living just as nature intended, and a wonderful boat trip around the sunny shores of Gran Canaria.